some housekeeping items to keep in mind. Please reserve all your questions, and also you're welcome to post them throughout the session using the questions area. Also, if you have a question, please use the questions of the chat window box. If you would like to receive a recording to today's webinar, we request you to please contact the WSI consultant who invited you to this session. You're also welcome to download a complimentary white paper or, on LinkedIn, which is LinkedIn. Let's connect by logging on to getwsipowered.com/LinkedIn. Again, thank you for joining us for today's webinar, and we'll get started now. Before I get started, I'd like to kind of give you a brief intro to our guest presenter today. Greg has been working with the WSI and a lot of other consultants within WSI, as well as small to medium-sized businesses in the U.S. and across the world, getting them to find out what's the best social media mix, and especially using LinkedIn. Greg's also used LinkedIn to build his, a business phenomenally, and we'd like to kind of, welcome him today to share those golden nuggets and some key strategies that will help you reach out to your customers much better, connect with them, build relationships, and also prospect new customers using LinkedIn. So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Greg Telsley. Greg, please take it away.
Artie, thank you very much. Thank you for the great introduction. Before I get in, I'd like to do one last sound check. Can everybody hear me okay? If so, just put a comment in the questions or the comment area, and anywhere along the lines of the presentation. If you need me to speak up or tone it down or you can't hear, just let us know through the chat window of the webinar console, which is on the right-hand side of your screen. Again, Artie, thank you very much for the introduction. I'm really excited to be part of this presentation. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn and been using LinkedIn since its inception. So without further ado, I'd like to really get into the details. We have a lot to cover today, and I'm really excited. So in this presentation, the goal here today, and what I want each and every single person who's on this call joining us, is to walk away from this session that we spend together with a better understanding of how LinkedIn can help you grow your business and help you prosper. It's very, very simple. LinkedIn is a powerful social media networking tool which can be applied to your business with some great strategies and techniques, which you'll learn today, which will have a huge impact. So we're going to focus in on 3 areas, or I should say the theme of this presentation is in 3 areas. One is credibility. We're going to show how LinkedIn can help you build credibility for your business. So we're really going to take a look at how and why credibility is important. Number 2, we're going to look at LinkedIn to see how it can be used for lead generation and prospecting. And 3, we're going to share some case studies on LinkedIn and how it can be used as a communication tool to stay in regular contact with your customers, your prospects, your suspects. So really, that is the theme. And to reiterate, the goal is to walk away with a better understanding of LinkedIn and how it can be applied to your business. Before we get into these areas, let's take a look at how people buy. One of the reasons why I like to start with this is really 2 reasons. One, we're all on this call today to look for or to find ways to grow our business, to look for new customers, to see how we can implement different strategies to our business which will help us grow. Secondly, we need to really put all of this into perspective. So that's one of the reasons why I want to share this slide. I think we all can agree, and if not, people can ask this question, but I believe one of the best ways to grow a business is through word of mouth or through referrals. And one of the things that I like most about LinkedIn is that it really supports word of mouth and referral-based growth extremely well. And you're going to see in some of the examples that we show today that if that's the way to grow your business, which I believe that is one of the best ways, that LinkedIn is a great tool to support that. This visual is really neat. It shows the prospect in the middle, and it shows how people buy. And it's safe to say whether you're looking for a plumber, a lawyer, a doctor, a contractor, even a local restaurant, one of the first place that people go to get information that they are looking for is through their what's called their sphere of influence, which are their friends, their family, and coworkers. So having that said, there's no social media networking platform like LinkedIn or Facebook that will ever replace the way that people buy through their sphere of influence. But after that, people go to different forms of media to get information when it comes to making their buying decisions. So why, in this graphic, are the traditional forms of what we call the traditional forms of marketing blocked out in gray here? And it's due to the way that people have access to information. You can see that websites, cell phones, podcasts, social media networking sites have all grown substantially through the past couple of years, and people are making buying decisions on those particular platforms. But really what it comes down to is the access of information that people have. And really what's fueling the growth in people's buying decisions in new media is through Google search, TiVos for your television, iPhones, and BlackBerries. So we're going to look at how LinkedIn can play into some of this new media, example, social media networking and LinkedIn. Let's take a look at credibility. If you're a lawyer, chiropractor, a plumber, a painter, a restaurant, real estate agent, a doctor, you get where I'm going with this. Really, any type of business that you're in needs credibility. I see credibility as being one of the most crucial aspects for a business to survive. I'll give you something to think about. How much credibility does Toyota have right now with the challenges that they're going through? And how would you feel being a Toyota sales representative trying to establish credibility? So people need to trust you or they will never, ever buy from you. And this credibility thing, I was doing some research on and pulling up some images on Google Images, and it's kind of a difficult concept, but one thing is for certain. Trust and credibility takes place in every single sale, whether it's small or large. And sometimes credibility happens instantaneously. Sometimes it happens in your subconscious. You don't even think about it. Or sometimes it happens over time. So we're going to show you how your LinkedIn profile, LinkedIn search, and some other techniques specifically targeted on the LinkedIn platform will help you build credibility for your business. The number 2 theme of this presentation relating to LinkedIn is lead generation and prospecting. Again, we're all on this call because we're looking for new customers, whether our business grows through referrals or word of mouth or through advertising or marketing or cold calling. If you're anything like me or many CEOs, you want to spend less and get more. So I'm going to show you a way using LinkedIn. And in my 10 years or 10 plus years of doing sales, I've yet to find a better prospecting tool or a better even prospecting company for that matter that matches some of LinkedIn's capabilities when it comes to lead generation and prospecting. Thirdly, communication. When it comes to communication with your target market, I guess in the traditional sense, or what we call old media being yellow pages, radio, TV, newspapers, really a lot of that communication was done behind closed doors. Let me give you an example. So before the world that we live in now, before marketing and advertising, a lot of messages were developed and contrived by senior executives in boardrooms by big companies. And what they did is they crafted a message, a marketing and advertising message, and then they pushed it out. They pushed it out through mediums like, as mentioned before, Yellow Pages, newspaper, radio, and TV. And then they sat back and they hoped and then they prayed that that message that was crafted behind closed doors generated sales for them. Well, all of that has changed, and that method is what we call spray and pray. Whereas now, as mentioned before, people have access to information, and people consume information their own way. So therefore, things have changed drastically, and it's important to have a good communication plan for your company. And not everybody that you contact, well, let's talk specifically about LinkedIn. Not everybody that you contact on LinkedIn will have a need for your product or your service right away. But with the right communication plan and consistently sharing great information to your community or your connections on LinkedIn, when and if they do have the need for your products and services, you're going to be top of mind. So we're going to show some case studies on LinkedIn being used as a communications tool to stay in regular contact with your customers, prospects, and your suspects. So about 3 months ago, I was asked to do this presentation on LinkedIn. And of course I said yes. I love LinkedIn, been using it since 2003, 2004. It's been great for my business. I have a lot of history, and I know it fairly well. Probably not the best expert in the world, but I know it fairly well. I was asked to do this presentation. I took a look around and be like, wow, I really use LinkedIn, but how big is LinkedIn? How many people are using it? What's the demographics? So what I generally do, anytime I'm looking for a product or looking to do diligence on a company or a service, I generally go to 3 websites to just do a quick little snapshot to see what's going on. Because sometimes I feel as though I'm a little bit alone in this world, so I want to get some validation. So that was one of the first things I did about LinkedIn. Excuse me. So you can see from the slide here, this is from a product called Google Insights, which I highly recommend checking out. And I just did a search on the term LinkedIn, just to kind of, like I said, validate interest and where is LinkedIn going. And so this is a really, really neat, quick, fast market research tool that you can use. Again, it's called Google Insights, just so Google Insights. So from 2004 to present, pretty nice chart here. And then what I love about this is it just shows the top stories that have made the most moves associated with that. So just a quick little snapshot. You can see some of the countries that LinkedIn is going through a lot of growth around. Also, for folks who use this tool, there's a little button down here as you go to the website and do a search, which shows you from 2004 to present how much growth they've had. So it's a little widget, a little video that they show. I recommend checking it out. But you can see that there's a lot of interest over time. Second thing that I do a quick snapshot on is from a website called Compete.com. Whereas if I'm going to be doing a presentation on LinkedIn and if we're going to be promoting it and providing a bunch of value to people, I want to make sure that, again, we're checking our basis and that LinkedIn is the right platform for business. So I just did a quick search how they compare to their competition. Because there's a lot of social networking platforms out there, the popular ones, Facebook, Twitter, and then, I constantly get invites from, Plaxo and Spoke. So I just picked some of my favorites. These probably aren't the leading ones, but any other ones that I did pick, it really showed LinkedIn just blowing away the competition. So pretty consistent here. So I said, oh, wow, this really is pretty powerful. So the third thing that I look at anytime I'm evaluating a product or services or website or anything like that is what are the demographics? In other words, like who is using this product, who is using this website, who is the parties that are already engaged. And this is from a cool site called QuantCast, which I recommend checking out. These three. Within 30 seconds, you can almost be a subject matter expert on a particular product, service, or website. But I was just blown away. Like I knew LinkedIn was big, but I was just blown away at some of the demographics associated with this. Here you can see 60 million members. They are adding a new member to the LinkedIn site every single minute. And some of the fastest growing areas are Europe, and the fastest growing area is India. But more importantly, some of the things that came to the surface as I was doing some of this due diligence and looking around, the average household income is $100,000 plus. You can see that over half of, I don't know why those two aren't lined up, but you can see over half of the community within LinkedIn makes over $100,000 per year. That just tells me it's probably a pretty good place to prospect. So looking a little bit deeper, that also tells me that if half the community is making over $100,000, probably pretty well educated. So obviously this supports it, 95% college educated and 37% hold graduate degrees. It's a nice little group to be part of. So then digging a little bit deeper, I didn't really find this that surprising that, I think 100%, they said 99.9% of the Fortune 500 companies are listed on LinkedIn, and you can see just from the statistics, roughly 8% are C-level executives. What that means is that it's not a bad place to be looking for prospect. It also tells me that there's a lot of networking going on, high-level networking, and there's also a lot of decision-making that's being done on LinkedIn. So not a bad place as I was doing some of that due diligence. I think it just reiterates the importance for business to have a presence there. So back to our theme of this presentation, it's about credibility. And like I said, credibility is kind of a weird thing. Sometimes it's built over time. Sometimes it's instant. But here you can see from my screen one of the most important things about your utilization and your strategy for LinkedIn, because again, we don't recommend just going to LinkedIn, signing up a profile. We recommend having a strategy, dedicating some time, whether it be on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, but it is something that you cannot ignore. So step number one is build an incredible profile, or I like to say build a killer profile. And basically your profile not only builds credibility, but think about your profile similar to your website, whereas we've all been to websites, whether you're looking for a painter, a lawyer, a doctor, a plumber. When you do that search in Google and you click through to one of those websites, almost instantaneously you'll know if they're credible or not. And one of the most popular buttons on a browser is the back button. So you can see that people lose a lot of credibility on the internet. So build an incredible profile is the first step of credibility. One of the most important things about a good profile and using LinkedIn is that your LinkedIn profile is very well optimized on Google. I'd love to run a poll here, whereas if I took 10 people on this call and I searched those 10 people who have a LinkedIn profile, and if I searched their names, I would almost guarantee that 8 out of those 10 people on the first 5 listings of Google will show their LinkedIn profile. And out of those 10 people, if we search their company names, their LinkedIn profile would probably be there about 5 times. So as people Google your name, Google your company name, LinkedIn's going to show up, and you really don't have any control over it unless you build an incredible profile. So just a couple of points. Wanted to look at this. LinkedIn makes it very easy for you to build a great profile. They show you how. They'll show you how complete your profile is. Just get to 100%. Recommendations, we'll take a quick look at, but those are very, very important. Obviously, anybody who's recommending you, those are great people who are going to give you referrals, builds credibility. Here you can list your website. Not too many people do, but one, you get link credit for it, and then two, you can actually customize what your website is all about, and they give you 3 listings. So again, building credibility, whether you have a blog or whether you have your Twitter account, but get 3 good websites listed in there. Just along the left-hand side, some basic things. Set your profile settings so you're public, and then also edit your contact settings where people can contact you. I'm not sure what it is by default. I really wasn't able to figure that out. But just make sure that you're open to the public, you're willing to accept connections, willing to be searchable, and then lastly, be very, very interesting. So in reference to your profile, which, like I said, think of it like your website, is you need to be searchable. So to do a little bit of keyword research around what are some of the things that people would search, whether it be on Google, LinkedIn, or any of these other social networking platforms, that people would search to find you. And then what's most important is in being searchable is, let's flip over to LinkedIn and actually look at an example of this. So pick 1 or 2 good key phrases and make sure that it's listed within your profile. I'm going to show you a quick example here of how you can use a particular niche word or a keyword, something that would be relevant that people would be searching to find you, and then also relevant for your business here. So here you can see my profile, which we'll scan through quickly, and I want to show you one really neat trick that I learned just the other day. But here you can see search engine marketing and internet advertising are my keywords. So obviously get it into the heading. You also want to get it into your current position. Basically, you want to get that particular key phrase listed in your profile as many times as you possibly can. Therefore, if somebody is searching Google, or if anybody is searching for your product and services specific to your key phrase, you will be known for that particular key phrase. So I'm not sure how many times I have it in here, but as we scroll through, you can see that I'm highlighting. I'm not sure if you can see that red dot or not, but I'm highlighting exactly how many times it is in there. The other thing about building credibility in reference to your profile is that getting recommendations, which are votes of confidence or testimonials, is very, very important. And again, LinkedIn makes it very easy for you to get recommendations. You can simply click on this button and ask people, your closest peers, to recommend you. Another way to get a lot of recommendations is to recommend people. If you recommend them, they will recommend you back, obviously giving testimonials. So the neat little trick I wanted to show you, which I learned the other day, is that within your profile, usually you have your summary first, and see this little, arrow in 4 directions. Then you have your recommendations, and then as you scroll down past recommendations, you get to, I believe it's like applications, which again is another place where you can add an application and put your recent presentations from a product or SlideShare, or you can put your blog. But the neat trick I wanted to show you is that you can arrange the different ways that you want these little sections of your site to appear. So simply clicking on this arrow, watch, it won't work for me now, but simply clicking on this arrow, you can move the different sections around. Doesn't look like it's working for me right now, but as you can see in my profile, I put the summary first, then I put the recommendations, then I put the past history. But simply clicking on this, you can move that around. So you can play with that on your own. So moving on, pick good keywords, build a great profile that will essentially help you build credibility. So this particular screen here is the advanced search screen from LinkedIn. And I tell people this all the time, that all of these platforms, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and the list goes on and on, they all have awesome search features. I wouldn't say they're as good as Google, but the search features are incredible. I can find anything on any one of these platforms. And a lot of times it's real, like Twitter, it's real-time information. So use search. Search is just huge. But a short story about this aspect, or this theme of the presentation, which is on lead generation and prospecting, is, see this screen here? This is a screen that I looked at every single day, every single morning for 2 years. Back in 2004, short story, I moved to California from Boston and was chartered with building out a new sales territory, Southern California. I had 0 contacts. So I had 2 options. One, I could buy a list, sit by the phone, and just start dialing. At the time, I was selling a software package. Or 2, I wanted to find a better way. So I started to search for a lot of titles, which it was a software testing package. So the ideal title of potential buyer was a director of quality assurance and testing in the IT area. So I started to search a bunch of titles, and this site back in 2004 started to come up on every single page. It was LinkedIn. And then as I scrolled through, I was like, wow, I was looking at these people's profiles, and they were my ideal buyer, and they were on this platform called LinkedIn. So for 2 years, every single morning, I would go to this screen and I would type in the title here, which unfortunately I put the arrow in the wrong spot. But you can see you can search by title in current position or not position, and then I would search the geographic area, and then I would search the specific industry that I wanted. And then what pops up is the search results, and it would tell me where that person works. Then what I would do is I would call that company, ask for that person, get their email address, send them a LinkedIn invite, and tell them that I was going to follow up. I had a good profile, which built a lot of credibility. The percentage rate of people that accepted that LinkedIn versus actually receiving an email from me was about 40%. So 40% of the people that I brought into this process accepted that LinkedIn invite, and then I would follow up. But the unique thing about it is, as I searched their profile on LinkedIn, I knew where they went to college. I knew how long they've been in the position. I knew where they passed forms. So it's a very, very warm cold call. And I did that for 2 years, and the outcome was built a $2 million sales territory within a 3-year time frame. And I can probably give credit to LinkedIn for about 80% of that revenue. Which is very, very powerful. It's just using this screen. Woke up every single morning, found out who I needed to call, called them. So let's look at a quick example of this, specifically on LinkedIn, because here's something that's very, very practical that you can go back to your computer after this call and implement right away. So here you can see the advanced screen. It's just simply clicking on this button. I think it's on every single page. And here, bear with me, I gotta turn this drawing thing off. For some reason, when I have this blue thing highlighted, it doesn't allow me to click on anything on my screen. But basically, you can see here that you can search via keyword, search by title, current or past. My mouse is not working. And then search via postal code within a 10-mile radius, a 50-mile radius. Pick the specific industry, and then as you scroll down here, which I can't seem to scroll down, you can click on search and look at the specific search results. I got my mouse back. So as you pick the industry, you click on the search results, and this particular search is marketing managers or folks who have the title marketing in their profile within a 10-mile radius. What's also pretty neat is you can save the search, and with a free LinkedIn account, you get to have 3 saved searches. So let's look at one that I've done before. Just simply click on Save Searches, and here is one that I'm tracking. By the way, it'll email you on a weekly basis how many new people and these search results. So here's a particular search result that I did that I track on a weekly basis. It's within a 10-mile radius of my zip code. It's for the current term marketing. And by the way, this is very, very powerful, so you can plug in any type of search criteria. It'll search by specific company if you're targeting a specific company, or if you're targeting a specific industry. But then what I did for about 2 years, and I still do it now for my business, is I'll find a company that looks like a good prospecting company. For instance, here, Sidebar Inc. Here's the Chief Operating Officer, Marketing and Sales. As I click on her profile, and I know she's in the Los Angeles area, I can simply look up the phone number for Sidebar and give her a call to see, i.e. she's my target market. I know that she has many other connections here, so she would be a good person for me to reach out to, contact, get her email, send her a LinkedIn invite, add her to my network, and follow up. Depending upon your sales cycle, most sales are done in the follow-up anyway. So this is extremely powerful for lead generation and prospecting. Now, the third theme that we're going to discuss is communication. We talked a little bit about how new media is here to stay, social networking, search, iPhones, TiVos, and most companies nowadays are realizing that newspapers, yellow pages, radio, TV are not half as productive as having an internet marketing strategy. And one of those strategies is essentially LinkedIn for some of the reasons that we talked about. But as it pertains to the communication in staying in regular contact with your customers, your prospects, and suspects, LinkedIn has some neat features. One is called Answers, which you can see a screenshot from here. You can ask any question that you want, and people will answer that. So whatever's burning in your mind today, go to LinkedIn, ask the question, and then you're going to have subject matter experts respond back to that. Also, on the flip side, as your target market or whatever line of business that you're in, i.e. lawyer, doctor, even plumber, they're going to ask questions. So become the expert, become the trusted resource, answer those questions, and the more you give, the more you'll get in return. Also, on LinkedIn, they give you a lot of, and this is an area that LinkedIn is expanding to, is they give you a lot of different areas to interact and to stay top of mind and to communicate. One is your network status, or they call them network updates, which they just integrated with Twitter. So anytime you if you link your Twitter account to your LinkedIn account, anytime you put a message in LinkedIn followed by that #.in, it will port that network status update over to LinkedIn, which is pretty cool, help save you a little bit of time. But providing updates, and not updates, I'm going out for pizza for lunch. That's not really relevant, but being interactive, being social, creating polls, answering questions, sharing references, sharing great articles. It's just a great way to build trust and credibility into your community. Not everybody is ready to buy your products and services right now. So the more you stay top of mind, the more you build that credibility, the more you build that trust, the more you provide great content to your network. When somebody has a need, whether they need an accountant, whether they need a doctor, whether they need a chiropractor, you're top of mind. You're the first person that they're going to think of because you're social and providing great content on these networks. So communication is very, very important. Let's get to a case study. I shared one example of how I personally used LinkedIn in a prior life when I was working as a sales professional to essentially build a $2 million sales territory in 3 years. So you can take that strategy, very, very simple. I'm sure no one's really blown away by that being the coolest thing. And yeah, it does take a lot of work, but like I've said, personal testimony, I've never found a better prospecting tool than LinkedIn. And some of the demographics also reiterate that. Wanted to share one additional client case study. And this is a client that we've been working with for about 2 or 3 years. And they are called Smart to be Green. And this client provides a weekly newsletter, and which actually goes out 3 times a week, and it's all about green living tips. And one of their revenue-generating sources is advertising. So advertisers who pay to advertise on their site. They're a very high-traffic site, specifically to green living and green trends and sustainability and the environment. So one of the challenges is, hey, we have an awesome, very, very loyal community. People love us, but we need money coming in the door. So we need to find advertisers. We need to find people who will pay to advertise on the site. So really, as you can see here from the bullet points, they needed to find decision makers who have a product or services, and yet they want to use Smart to be Green to get that message out, which Smart to be Green had a great platform for that. So our recommendation, WSI, was we're already doing a lot on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. They had a lot of videos out on YouTube. But where would these decision makers, these folks, these media buyers, these advertising professionals, where would they be? So our recommendation was, let's utilize LinkedIn to reach out to them. And we know that they're interested in green living because and sustainability and all of that whole category, because that's the business that they're in. And we'll find folks who are spending advertising dollars. So that was our goal in connecting with them. Our solution was utilize LinkedIn profile search, as we talked about, to really narrow in on the target market, the focus here. Utilize search for prospecting. Secondly, we wanted to really get involved from a social perspective on the LinkedIn platform, so answering questions, asking questions, joining groups. You can see some of the groups down here to the right, which are all relevant to the business. And then connect with the potential advertisers. So the results were great. We solidified about 3 to 6 potential leads. Now, sometimes it's difficult on LinkedIn to track the actual person, from start to finish throughout the sales cycle, especially if you have a longer sales cycle. But again, it's about credibility, it's about trust, it's about communication. So it definitely, the campaign, LinkedIn campaign, definitely resulted in business. And we do have more specifics on this particular case study. If anybody wants to send an email to RT or send an email to, I think it's education@wsicorporate.com for more information around specifics for this particular case study. But the last result, which I found really cool about this particular case study, and it's amazing how well LinkedIn works in this fashion, is that as we went to look at traffic to the website, our activities on LinkedIn bumped the LinkedIn website to become one of the top 10 traffic sources for Smart to be Green. And the client and myself were kind of blown away from all of the website traffic that was coming in from LinkedIn. And we're starting to see that across a lot of our client base as LinkedIn becomes more and more popular as a social networking and business development tool. So in summary, because we'd like to save some time for questions and answers, and I want to hear from you some feedback. In summary, LinkedIn is great to build credibility for your business. It's incredible for lead generation, and it's really a crucial communication tool for you to communicate to your target market and reach out to folks who would be interested in buying your products and services. So, Artie, if you're still on the call, I'd like to bring you in if there are any questions, or I'd like to ask the community and the folks on this call to either type questions in or share some of your comments, and we'd be happy to do our best in answering those. If we don't know the answers, we can certainly get back to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Greg. It was a wonderful session. I learned a lot, and I'm sure so do our attendees as I see some comments here. I definitely think that the three-point approach that you took on how LinkedIn can help build credibility, help companies generate leads, and can be used as a prospecting tool, and also, of course, from communication standpoint, and the tools that you shared, the case studies that you shared on how you've done it for other companies is amazing. I think Google Insights is a great tool, and companies, even if they're not searching on LinkedIn, they're searching for something else, can use the Google Insights tool, so it's definitely a must-use. I strongly recommend as well that all attendees, if you're still not using Google Insights, then maybe take a look, or maybe contact a WSI consultant who can show you how to use it and how to take best advantage of it from a keyword research standpoint also, and include that in your part of your marketing mix from a research standpoint. So definitely we have lots of questions here, and once again, thank you so much, Greg, for sharing these golden nuggets with us. I'll like to take the first question that was sent over to us was, when you work for a company and do in-house search engine optimization, but want to be known as a product expert of this particular company, do you register yourself on LinkedIn as a web marketer or as a product expert? So that's where I think there's some employees of some companies are asking that how do they set up their profile on LinkedIn as a web marketer or a product expert if they're doing, if they're potentially SEO experts?
Yeah, well, Artie, I'll take that question. It's a very, very common question, and it really has to go back to an overall strategy associated with your SEO and your internet marketing campaigns, whereas you really, we always call them campaigns. Before you start, you really should think about, who is my target market? How much time do I spend on each and every single one of these platforms, i.e. Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and, how many connections am I, what are the goals associated with the work that I'm going to do? And then that'll kind of help you figure out what type of profile you should be setting up. Sometimes you can have your profile and you could have a lot of your past experience being the web marketer, but now your new charter, your new role with your new company is specifically focused in on this product, and you know everything there is to know about this product, and you're promoting this product, and you're providing great information about this product. So that would be one scenario. Another scenario, which is probably less common, probably not encouraged as much, is to set up two profiles, whereas you are, you have maybe a business profile, and then you have your consulting work profile. I would probably venture to say that the first option, which is, communicate effectively within your profile, who you are, what you do, be clear, concise, to the point. Don't make people think whatsoever, because once people think, that's when you lose them, and that's probably the best strategy. And as you build that profile, whatever you are representing, try to be as intriguing and try to be as interesting as possible. So hopefully that helps.
Great. There's another question. Say, I've been on LinkedIn for a year and have some, essentially, I'm fairly new to LinkedIn. Will it negatively affect my credibility when contacting potential prospects, suspects? How can I improve the perceptible credibility in these circumstances?
That's a great question, and you have to start somewhere. And I see that LinkedIn, most people, and if you look at some of these statistics, most people on LinkedIn are very, very guilty of, hey, building a profile and then I haven't been back in 2 or 3 months, and occasionally I get an invite and I accept it. Great. LinkedIn is not revolutionizing my business. I'm not generating a ton of revenue, so I'm not really going to focus in on it. We're all a little bit guilty of that, but you have to start somewhere. So build a strategy. Say, okay, I'm going to invite one new connection per day, or I'm going to use what's called the LinkedIn widget, which is the Get Connections button, to have LinkedIn go into my email, whether it be Outlook, Gmail, or Yahoo, and find out who out of my community or the people that I email are using LinkedIn. That's a good way to get a lot of connections, to actually see who's on the platform. And then start to become a little bit social on the platform. Look at your particular industry. See what people are asking for questions. And if you feel comfortable, answer that question. It takes time, but that's one of the ways you can build credibility. One more point on that is anything that you do on LinkedIn, whether you update your status, whether you change your picture, whether you change your profile, LinkedIn sends a summary via email, I think on a weekly basis, or it might even be daily, of all of the changes that have happened within your network. When I say all those changes, anybody who's done anything. I think this is a feature you turn on and off. Fortunately or unfortunately, I have it turned on, but I can see anybody who's active over the past week on my particular network. So just jump in with 2 feet, have fun with it, keep a goal in mind, have a strategy, and track and measure.
Great. There's another question. What about creating groups about a business issue for lead generation? What are your thoughts?
Artie, I'm sorry, you got cut off just in the beginning of that. I heard groups.
Okay, sorry about that. Question about would you recommend starting, a group for lead generation purposes, and how do you, essentially tackle that? So the question is, what about creating groups about a business issue for lead generation?
Yes, 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 and yes, yes. Go in, start a group today, specific about a business challenge, specific about a community, specific about anything that you would do in offline networking. Example, think of LinkedIn, just your offline networking online. So yes, start a group. It's great. Just as an experiment, probably about 3 or 4 months ago, when I was asked to do this presentation, I started a group of just local networkers. So people within a 10-mile radius. I called it South Bay. That's the area that I live in. South Bay Executive Networkers. And right now, I haven't done anything with it, but there's over 200 people all within the South Bay that have joined that group. And what I did within the group is I put in all the local geographic terms. So as people go to LinkedIn and they search groups specifically to the South Bay or my geographic area that I live in, Manhattan Beach, Hermosa, they find this group and then people have joined it. So there are people on this platform that have your same business challenges, your same like-minded issues. So start a group, invite people, and as the moderator of the group, you have total control, which is brilliant.
Great. There's a question that says, hi, do you have to register as an individual, or can you register as a company? What would you recommend?
So in joining LinkedIn, the way that this platform is structured is they want you to join as an individual, as a person, as a member of LinkedIn. LinkedIn does offer features where you can register a company and have a company profile. But the company profile is very, not a good word, very restrictive in some of the things that you can do. So register as an individual, as a member, and then you can also register your company so you can be part of that company as a so-called group. But the way that this is structured, it's really one-to-one networking.
Great. There's another question that says, how could we use LinkedIn to advertise our company?
Well, one of the great ways to use LinkedIn to advertise is they have a pay-per-click model. So if you want to set up an ad campaign, you can pay LinkedIn. Just go to linkedin.com/advertising, and you can run ads very, very specific to your target market. So one, you can do a paid campaign. I experimented a little bit with it, and I'm going to get a little bit technical right now, but the click-through ratio in terms of impressions versus clicks is extremely, extremely high. So you have a very, very low click-through ratio of your ad, but the impressions are just huge, millions and millions of impressions. So one, there's a paid model. Two, if you want to advertise your business, what better way than create very, very good questions related to your business, like challenges that that your product or services solve, and then go to answers and then ask community that particular question. Also, you can create polls. Polls are just 4 or 5 questions, or you ask a question, then you give 4 or 5 answers for people to answer, which then again related to the problems that you solve. So just those 3 ways, and then as you interact and as you become more dominant on that platform, those are 3 ways to advertise any product and services on LinkedIn.
Great. Thanks, Greg. And I think you rightly said pay-per-click can get you some immediate results as a result of advertising on LinkedIn as well. And you can see what are the keywords that people are, that you're advertising on LinkedIn, and it's professionals and your target audience is clicking on. So there's definitely measurable as well. There's a question that says, is it a good idea to join and participate in lots of groups? And if you do choose to answer questions, with the limited time that each one of us has, how do you kind of manage your time in answering questions and choose which questions to answer?
That's a great question, because, and I'll always go back to the word strategy. I don't recommend stopping every single function within your business and jumping on LinkedIn and just spending 8 hours a day. So you really need to have a good strategy. Here's a little technique that I personally adopt and recommend to others, is take maybe 1 hour per week. And if you're limited on time, maybe it's 15 minutes, but take 1 hour per week and dedicate it to one of your advertising and marketing platforms. Example here is LinkedIn. And one of the things that I constantly do is I search for some of the challenges that I solve within my business. People are asking a lot of questions about. So in a folder on my computer, I have what I call canned answers, because everybody's asking the same exact question over and over and over again. So what I do is I save my best answer from that, or, find the best answer, whoever it be is one of the subject matter experts, and then kind of tweak their answer. Then as people ask questions, you now are the subject matter expert, and you already have it in a folder, so then you can cut and paste it into the answer, and over again. You might need to tweak a little bit, but that's one technique to answer a lot of questions specific to your target market. But it goes back to how much time do you have? Can you allocate some time? I highly recommend, whether it be daily, weekly, or even monthly, commit to, I'm going to answer one question. Say if you're a chiropractor, there's people asking questions about back pain. I'm going to commit to answering one question. I'm going to do a good job of it per month. And people are going to be asking the same question specific to chiropractic services. So hopefully that answers your question.
Great. There's a question that says, you mentioned about linking LinkedIn to your Outlook or Yahoo Mail or Gmail. How do you connect LinkedIn to Outlook?
Oh Oh man, I was hoping somebody was going to ask this question. So LinkedIn just launched a new beta product, and I'm not sure if everyone has access to this, but it's an integration into Outlook. And when I say an integration, I mean that I've looked at some of the screenshots. I haven't installed it because I'm a little hesitant and I use Outlook. But as they launch this, it is fully integrated into Outlook, whereas as you get an email from a person along the left-hand side within Outlook, and I'm just going based upon the screenshots. You'll have to look at the news story and this thing running in beta, but you'll actually see their LinkedIn profile. You'll see what their title is in Outlook as you get an email from a particular person. So I was hoping somebody was going to ask me that question, and that is just very, very powerful. And I think that's really, and I watched a couple podcasts, or not podcasts, like videos of the CEO, and he said really that's where they're going, is to integrate all this social media together with Yahoo Buzz and Gmail and Outlook. So that's one new neat feature. But when I talk about setting up your email, is all of these social networking platforms, they have a little button that says Find Connections, or on LinkedIn it says Find Connections, on Twitter it says Find Followers, and what they'll do is you click on that button, you plug in your username and password for your Gmail account, and they'll go in and then they'll aggregate all of your contacts to see who is currently using the platform and give you a nice little widget to invite them to join.
Great, thank you. So is it worth paying to upgrade your account on LinkedIn, or can most companies use the free tool that comes with LinkedIn?
Wow, another great question. And I recommend going with the free version. And I'm not sure within my account if I have the free version or if I have the upgraded version. But my recommendation, unless you're a recruiter, stick with the free version. And if you find the need to upgrade, go with that. And do your own due diligence. I'll leave it at that.
Are there any special features that come with upgraded version that you have used, maybe, Greg, or you think free version is good enough?
I think the free version is good enough. Some of the features of the upgraded versions is you can connect with people directly. So rather than having to go through the various channels to connect with people, to add connections, you can connect with people directly. That's a very nice feature. You can also save all of your searches. So as you do searches, I think you're allowed 3 free saved searches, so you can have like unlimited, and those saved searches get emailed to you on a weekly basis, so therefore you know which prospects to call. So that's kind of neat. And then the other thing is you can set up folders within LinkedIn, so I think they give you unlimited access to folders. I highly recommend, if you're new to LinkedIn, just stick with the free version. And if you really feel the need, if you keep running into that screen that says it's time to upgrade, maybe you want to consider it. But if you don't see that screen all the time, do not upgrade.
Great. Thanks so much. Now, there's a question. Is it a good idea to join and participate in lots of groups, or do you have to be very careful as to how many groups do you join?
I would start off with 5, because if you join a lot of groups, one, you're never going to have the time to manage those groups and to see what's happening for activity. So do some searches for groups which are very, very relevant. Find the most relevant group, the one who has good community, good members, and good interaction. And start with 5. You can always expand from there. But don't go out and join 15 groups because, 1, you'll never be able to manage it, and 2, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Great. The question says, interesting presentation, so thanks, Greg. The question is, if you connect, your connections will always be shown to all your connections. But what if I do not want this? Is there a way to shield this, or is there a way to kind of keep it private?
I would have to say I really don't know the answer to that.
I know the answer, Greg. Can I answer?
Please, thank you. Get me off the hot seat.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. It's a great question, and I think for those of you who'd like to keep their LinkedIn lives private, you can go into the settings under your LinkedIn profile on the top of the page, and you can see can people see if you what connections do you have? Can they view all your connections? Or if you are kind of going into different people's profile to see what they're doing from a prospecting state, do you want them to see you visited their profile or not? And if you don't want them to see that you visited their profile, you can private that as well. So if that answers your question, great. Otherwise, send us an email at education@wsicorporate.com, and we'll be happy to answer and send you some screenshots of that. So that's,
yeah, that would be awesome. You know what else would be really cool is if you could designate which connections you want public and which ones you want private. That'd be kind of a cool feature. We might have to send that over to LinkedIn if you can't already do that.
Well, I'm not sure about that, Greg, but I definitely know that because I've done that for my settings, so I know that this is possible. In terms of, you mentioned that there is one way of getting the recommendations is to recommend others, and they will reciprocate. What do you think that these mutual recommendations diminish their value, or they're not as valuable to others who are looking at it?
That's a good point, and it really depends upon how much due diligence people are going to do in terms of researching you and researching your credibility. I have to say that before I go on any appointment with a prospect, I always look at their LinkedIn profile so I can kind of get a sense of where they grew up, where they went to school, what other companies they worked for. And a lot of times if I see, 50 different recommendations, I'm probably not going to spend the time to go through and be like, okay, well, that recommendation probably isn't that true because he also recommended it. So I would have to say no. It really doesn't hurt your credibility if you're recommending the same people. If anything, you're building your network. And I think as people look at your profile and as they determine whether you're credible or not, or if there's somebody that you want to connect with, a lot of times they'll read your recommendations, and they're not going to go through and be like, okay, this one really doesn't count because he also recommended that person. You want to keep an even balance, whereas you don't want to be recommending 50 people and have 0 recommendations in return, but obviously you can manage that. That's obvious.
Okay, great. I think absolutely I agree. When using this prospecting, do you simply send an email invitation, then put in a call to follow up, or do you mention why you believe it is a good reason to link together? What do you do exactly for your prospecting, Greg?
So me personally, for my prospecting, and I coach a lot of companies, and I do some sales training specifically to LinkedIn. And your initial call, because they don't, it's essentially a cold call, although it's not a cold call because you have their LinkedIn profile. So if you find somebody that you really want to target, they're local, they're your perfect customer, they're your ideal target market, here's the process that I generally follow. Is one, the goal is for me to do an introduction. I don't want to be selling them anything. I don't want to tell them who they are. I just want to let them know that I'm interested in connecting with them. So the first thing I do is I search. I find the company's phone number. And say, for instance, that example that I showed you was a chief operating officer of a local, and she was in marketing before of a local technology company. I think it was called iRise. So I call up iRise, and I ask for so-and-so. One, I know that they're there. I ask for the person's name. I know that they're there. So then, two, I'll either ask the operator for their email address, or if I do reach them, I'll do an introduction. Hi, it's Greg with the WSI. I understand you've been working with this and this company. Then I go into my sales pitch, and I say, I'd just like to get your email. I'd like to send you out my contact information. So then I send them my contact information. I also follow up with a LinkedIn invite. So then, therefore, they can see my profile. And the power of that process is that as soon as that cold call, they get an email from me, they click the delete button. But the chances of them accepting a LinkedIn invite, especially if she already has 500 connections, it's about 40 to 50% that she's going to accept that. I would venture to say even much, much higher. Now I have that person in my network. They have checked out my profile most likely. Then I can follow up a week later and just say, hey, I dropped your line. Purpose of my call is this, this, and this. Do you want to go grab lunch? Something like that. So hopefully that helps. I was kind of all over the place.
Great. Greg, you mentioned using keywords to increase your profile's visibility. How many would you recommend?
I recommend to start with one. So do a little bit of keyword research. I know we have a broad range of folks on this call, so I don't want to get too technical. But start with one good keyword. And if to determine if it's a good keyword, go to Google and actually type in that particular keyword, or go to LinkedIn and actually type in that keyword. See what comes up for search results. So pick one good key phrase and put it into the title, put it into the header, put it into your description, put it in there, try to get it in there 5 or 6 times on the page, that specific keyword phrase. Then go to LinkedIn search and see if you come up number 1 for that particular key phrase. After you get really good at one, like search engine marketing, I think was my particular key phrase, then move on to the next one. It's also very competitive too, so you want to track that over time. For search engine marketing, for a while I was coming up number 1. This was about six months ago, and then since then I don't think I exist anymore, so I need to come up with another one. So get good at one, then move on to 2. But the key point in that is to have density in your profile for that particular key phrase.
Great. There's another question that says, what is more valuable, quality of LinkedIn connections or quantity? What my understanding from this webinar is it's more quantity. So what are your thoughts?
Goes back to strategy. That's my scapegoat here. I always say go back to strategy. But it is very, very important. And I'll give you an example. I hate to use myself as an example, but I'm going to give you an example. When I was building that $2 million territory, I would not let anybody in my network, unless they were C-level or executive vice president or vice president, specific to my domain. So therefore, I was building a LinkedIn connections specific to all like-minded professionals. The reason why I did that is because I only wanted those people. That was essentially my database. That was my prospecting. And what I found is all of these people that accepted connections, they all knew each other. They all saw each other at local networking events. So what they would essentially do is they would shop within my network of all directors of QA. So my goal was to have 200 directors of QA all within my LinkedIn profile. That was quality, extreme to that example. And then I've switched, whereas I'm much more broad now, whereas now it's all quantity. I don't care. I just want 3,000 connections. Therefore, my reach as I share content, promote, build credibility is that much greater. So hopefully that answers your question. It goes back to your strategy and what you want to accomplish, whether you're broadcasting or you just want to create a killer niche.
Great. And there's a question that says, I get quite a few invitations from people that I just don't know. Should I accept as all connections might help, or should I refuse to keep my network real? Is there anything negative about saying I don't know this person, or should I always accept?
2 schools of thought. Do you want your LinkedIn connections to be very, very private? Do you want it to be your personal database? Do you want it to be your exclusive networking group? Or do you just want to grow out your account and extend your amount of reach more people? Similar to the last question, it goes into your strategy. It also goes into your product and services, whereas who is your target market? You're using LinkedIn and your connections to grow your business. If somebody has a lot of connections, you might want to connect with them because you never know who knows who. And LinkedIn is relationships matter. So it's that whole degree, the whole 6 degrees of separation. So you really need to think that out and come up with a plan. And you need to have the plan in how you're going to do that. Good question, though. It depends.
Great. There's a question, and I think we will be only taking another 2 last questions here. One question is, I'm from the UK. LinkedIn seems to be very small here. Do you know, as compared to the US, what is the users, how many users are there on LinkedIn, and how is it being well received? So Any thoughts on that? Do you have any statistics to share, Greg?
Oh, man, I got a great answer to that question. Go to this website. It's called google.com/insights, and do a search for the term LinkedIn, and you'll see that the UK is the second fastest growing area of LinkedIn. And the number one fastest growing area is India. So also, as you do that search, they offer a new feature which will show you a little video clip. I'm going to see if I can get to it. A little video clip on how, what are their geographic areas across the globe that are growing the fastest. And Europe, specifically the UK, is there.
I must say there is a blog post on LinkedIn blog itself also, Greg, which talks about users, in the UK, and they're very fast, rapidly growing. There are about 3 million users in the UK alone on LinkedIn. So it's definitely a huge, I would say, traction on LinkedIn. It's just that maybe people in your sphere of influence are not using it for now, but to be on the leading edge of the game and to be the forefront of it, I strongly recommend LinkedIn as a great source to build your personal brand credibility as well.
Exactly, and every single minute they're getting a new member on LinkedIn, and half of those new members are coming outside the United States. And you can see that in terms of interest, UK is number 7, and it's growing fast. India is number 1. But check out Google Insights. That'll answer that question for you.
Great. I just heard a note from one of our franchisees who's also on the call and is one of our, our council member and an area representative. He says there are 4 million in the UK now, so it's very fast growing. So thank you, David, for sharing that information as well. Now, there's a last question that we're taking today. I know that Greg, that you've got another webinar for us to do in just about half an hour, 45 minutes. So we'll give you a break. And this last question is, how do you link outside of my network? Can I broaden my network options? How to link outside of my network? Can I broaden my network options? And how can they do that?
How can they broaden their LinkedIn connections outside of their network? I'm sorry, Artie, I don't necessarily understand the question.
Yeah, I think what they're trying to ask is, how do you link outside of your sphere of influence, or your, how do you actually get more people to connect with you on LinkedIn?
Oh, that's probably, I thought where you're going. One of the neatest ways to do that, because it is a challenge, LinkedIn is not this open platform. They just don't let you connect with anybody and everybody. It's all about building your personal community through people who know you and through people you know. So join a group. Look at the members within that group. So one, join the group. Sometimes you need to be accepted to the group, but find a very relevant group, and then look at the members within that group. As you scroll through the members, LinkedIn lets you connect directly with members of that group that you belong to without any type of hitch. When I say hitch, like, you don't need to know them. You just say to LinkedIn, hey, we're in the same group, let's connect. And LinkedIn lets you connect without jumping through any hoops. So very, very important technique or golden nugget or thing you can walk away from. So go to groups, look at the members, and then just connect with them directly. And if you've done a good job in selecting the group, they're already like-minded professionals. So if there's 200 people in the group, there's 200 free connections, which are very, very easy to get connected to. A little trick. Artie, are you still there?
Thank you so much, Greg. I was there. I was muted. I'm sorry about that. As everyone can see, that you can download the white paper, which Greg's written recently at getwsatpower.com/LinkedIn. We just want to extend our sincerest thanks, Greg. This is such a wonderful session. We had a lot of questions, Sorry if we couldn't take your question, then please send us an email and we'll be happy to answer, and our experts will also go and answer those questions that were not answered as we go along. Also, if you would like to set up a meeting with a WSI consultant to talk to you a little bit more about your LinkedIn strategy, they all are experts in their own area and can definitely speak to you about how LinkedIn can be a part of your marketing mix. So feel free to contact them. Again, please take a few moments after the session to share your feedback on the webinar, as you'll be routed to a survey. And just a final reminder that if you would like to receive a recording to today's webinar, please contact the WSI consultant who invited you to the session. We will be releasing the recording within the next 24 hours, so we appreciate your patience in that regard. Also, our next webinar is scheduled for March 25th, and the subject is Facebook and you in the new millennium and how you can take advantage of it. So we'll have our expert speaker on Facebook. We appreciate you signing in today, and we look forward to seeing you at our future session. So Greg, thank you once again for sharing these strategies and golden nuggets with us.
Thank you so much for having me, and enjoy your networking on LinkedIn.
Great. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day ahead. Bye now.